Good morning, everybody. I'm Love Coach Scott Catamas, and it is my Sacred Sunday show. As you can tell from a different bit of a backdrop, I'm in a hotel room. I had the really wonderful honor of officiating a wedding yesterday afternoon. Dear friends of mine that got married, and they bought a beautiful 4-acre property up in a canyon where they had the ceremony. But the internet was still not very good. They literally moved in 2 weeks ago and had a wedding, but they hadn't been able to get their internet squared away. So I rented a hotel room about 20 minutes away. And so that's why it's a little bit of a different background. It's springtime for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere. And for anybody watching in the Southern Hemisphere, it is autumn, changing the seasons. My guest today is supposed to be Ellie Lax from Gentle Barn, and hopefully Ellie will show up. I want to acknowledge all the people, a lot of people coming into the Zoom room, and so welcome everybody. Let's start off with a meditation, and I invite everybody, unless you're operating a motor vehicle, to really close your eyes. Let's all drop in together. Let's take some deep breaths, breathing at your own pace. And as our eyes close and we breathe, just let the sound of my voice gently guide you. And as we gently drop in, let's take an inventory of ourself, of our own body temple. I often start my day with light touch, which is a wonderful way to awaken the senses and to honor and acknowledge my body temple. I invite you to do the same. Maybe touch yourself in loving ways and tune in and see how well resourced are you this morning. Have you had enough food? Water? Did you get enough rest last night? And what's your general state? Many of us live in a state of low anxiety, low-grade anxiety, or hypervigilance. They have a lot of empathy and compassion for people like that. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. I'll make that clear, but it does reflect an additional challenge that you carry. So just really dropping in and seeing how well resourced we all are. And as we move from winter to spring, keeping our eyes closed and tuning in, what's one thing you really want to shift as you go from one season to the next? Most of us watching from winter to spring, but for anybody down below, Southern Hemisphere, from summer to autumn, what's a change, what's a shift you want to make in your life? And after you've kind of made that commitment to yourself, coming back into consciousness. Welcome everybody. And I do see Ellie is, it appears, she is in the room, so I'm going to promote her panelist. There she is. There's our guest of honor. Hi, Ellie.
Hi. I was having trouble with technology as usual, but I am very glad that I figured out how to get on here. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I'm glad you're with us too. Give us a chance to do a little meditation. And, you know, for those of you that did do the meditation, I would love for you, if you want to put it in the chat box, anything you want to share about what came up for you, something you want to change or shift now that we are shifting into a new season. Springtime. And springtime must be a very exciting time in Gentle Barn. Do we have births of new life taking place?
Yes. Oh my God. Springtime is very exciting here at the Gentle Barn. Not only are there newborn animals that need rescuing and pregnant moms, but also there's a lot of animal care that goes on in springtime. So we're sharing the sheep in May so that they're not overheated in the summer. We do all our equine dentals. We trim the goats, sheep, cows, and pigs' hooves. We trim pig tusks. We take fecals of all the mammals to make sure nobody has worms. And if anybody does have parasites, we treat them. So there's a lot going on here at the Gentle Barn. Very, very busy.
Wow. Well, I'm really appreciating that you're taking an hour out of your time to join us. And, of course, you were on Saturday Night Live last week. And, one of the things about the show, Saturday Night Live, is that it's a very fast-paced inspirational variety show. So everybody gets 5 or 7 minutes, sometimes 8. If it's Deepak Chopra, we give them 10, but not much time. And so this show is an opportunity for me to get to know people more deeply. And so many people were really touched by the amazing work you're doing. I think what I'd like to do, if you don't mind, is I'm going to show the same video that we showed last week, just for anybody watching. Most of the people who watch this show watch the replay. And there are a lot of the same people that watch Saturday Night Live, but there are also some that don't. So just as an introduction to Ellie, this is a really beautiful video, 4.5 minutes long, that introduces the wonderful work that she's doing. And thank you. I love that people are putting into the chat box comments. So please do so. And I'll also check and see what's going on Facebook. Here we go with the video.
So we rescued this cow last night. The guy didn't tell us that she had a baby there. When she came in, we couldn't tell. And now she's really upset and calling for him. It's like you can really feel her pain. She really wants her baby. Hopefully I'll have enough battery to film this. I guess that's what it's all about, huh?
That's really, I'm crying. Yeah. Ooh, and we lost Ellie. Oh, there she is. She's back. Hi, Ellie.
Hi.
Well, nothing like some Sunday morning tears. It's really something. So tell us, how did this journey begin for you? This incredible journey that of your life is dedicated to, but how did it all start?
Well, I think that I was born an animal lover. I always loved animals since I was a little child. And I have so many wonderful younger memories. I remember being 3 years old and wandering out to the woods behind my house barefoot, sitting down under a tree, and all the little baby bunnies were just hopping around and we were just sharing the day together. I remember laying in a field and being covered in butterflies. I remember playing in the woods and finding little salamanders to slither through my fingers. And I just remember always seeing nature and animals as my playground and my friends. And the older I got, the more I realized that the people around me did not see animals that way. My brothers would do terrible things to insects in front of me, trying to make me cry, which I always cried. I would follow my brothers, trying to stop them from doing horrible things. The kids at school teased me. My parents kept saying, "Oh, Ellie, stop your nonsense. They're just animals." And it just became very clear by the time I was 6 and 7 that the way that I saw animals, the way that I heard them, the way that I communicated with them, was different than the people around me. The other thing that I remember is being 6 years old, playing in my room with my dollies, and all of a sudden getting a message from someone calling me for help. And I remember leaving my room and walking through the house and going down the street and taking a left at the lake and coming upon a very, very tall tree where a bird had fallen out of her nest. And I remember picking her up and saying, "Oh, thanks for calling me. Here I am. I will help you." And I brought her home and I made a little nest out of mud and grasses. And I took care of her and fed her until she was big enough to fly away. So it was normal for me, for animals to talk to me and for me to be able to talk to them. And by the time I was 7 years old, really, really seeing that who I was, the way that I saw animals, the way that I was with animals was different than the people around me. And I remember being 7 years old and just telling people, when I grow up, I'm going to have a big place full of animals and I'm going to show the world how beautiful they are. And then all the lonely people of the world will come and they will heal with us. So it was this dream that I had in my head, and I would sit in school and I would draw pictures of what the Gentle Barn would look like. I would go to sleep each night, imagining to myself what the Gentle Barn would feel like. And I would imagine all these beautiful, beautiful animals that had been hurt and suffered, who felt lonely, who felt unseen and unheard, who felt misunderstood. And they would come home to the Gentle Barn and I would see them, I would hear them, and I would heal them. And then together we would join forces to heal more people in the world. And that was my little dream. And I never let go of it, but I didn't know how to start it. I didn't know what the first steps would be. I had no idea. And so it wasn't until I was a young adult living in a little house with a half-acre backyard in the Los Angeles Valley that I was driving one day doing an errand and I saw a petting zoo I'd never seen before. And it was full of animals and it smelled funny and it was full of people. And I just was very nosy. So I found myself going in there to see what everyone was doing. And I couldn't believe what I saw. I was seeing goats and sheep with hooves so long that they had deformed legs and couldn't walk. I was seeing dead animals in cages. I was seeing all the animals with no water on a very, very hot day. And I was seeing them beating the ponies to keep going around in circles carrying these kids. And all of that was excruciatingly disturbing. But what was more disturbing than that was watching crowds of people taking pictures and smiling and skipping around and holding hands and putting their kids on these very, very suffered animals. And not one of them could see the suffering in front of them. And it just disturbed me so greatly. It was the same feeling that I had as a kid. It's like I could see something so clearly and the people around me were completely blind. And it killed me. And so I had to get out of there. And so I ran for the door, and blocking the exit was a very, very old goat that looked me in the eyes, stopped me in my tracks, and asked me for help. And I could hear her voice as clear as day. She was saying, "Will you help me?" And so I returned her gaze and I said, "Yes, I will help you. Stay right here. I'll be right back." And I found the owner and said, "Hey, can I have the goat?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Can I buy the goat? Name your price." And she said, "No." And so I told the owner, "Look, she's going to die. So I'm going to stay here till you say yes." And I stayed there for 12 days. And on the 13th day, they found me and they told me to take the goat and get the heck out of there. So I took Mary the goat home. I found a mobile vet that came out and taught me how to trim her overgrown nails, massage her deformed legs so she could walk again, how to feed her and care for her. And she was just bouncing around the backyard as happy as can be. And it was the greatest feeling I'd ever had in my life. And I knew in that moment that that's who I was. That's why I've come. That's the gift that I had within me to share with the world. And I had to do more of that. So I ended up going back to the petting zoo and bringing home more and more and more and more animals that were dying and suffering. And before I knew it, I had a half-acre backyard full of animals that I was breathing the life back into. And it hit me like, holy cow, I just started my dream. So that was 22 years ago. And that's how the Gentle Barn came to be. We are now a national organization located in Los Angeles, Nashville, and St. Louis. And my dream came true. I get to live my dream every day.
You're killing me this morning. That story got me too. So here's a question for you as you share the horror of you younger seeing all that suffering and people being oblivious. Honestly, what's your experience? Is humanity becoming more conscious and awake, less conscious and even more oblivious? Is it about the same? I mean, of course, you have your own sample size based on your experience, but how are we doing as a human race? Are we getting it together more or not?
I think we have still a long way to go. We have much to accomplish. We have many hearts to open. We have many animals to bring home and heal. But I think overall, I think that we're making progress every single solitary day. I became vegetarian when I was 11, which was 100 years ago. And I became vegan 20 years ago. When I became aware of what was going on and how these animals were suffering, I wanted to do something about it, and I wanted to be part of the solution and not the problem. But back then, I ate brown rice, tofu, and vegetables. There wasn't a lot of awareness. There wasn't a lot. I was the only one. Everywhere I went.
Well, we just
Sorry, my phone is glitching. Everywhere I went, there were people that just didn't understand what vegan or vegetarian was. And there weren't a lot of animal lovers. And I just think that since then, it's been 20 years. There are more vegan restaurants, there's more vegan products, there's more pediatricians, oncologists, and cardiologists recommending their patients that they go vegan. There's more animal lovers, there's more awareness. Very painstakingly, slowly, we're creating better laws that are protecting animals. And like I said, we have a long, long, long way to go. But I think that it feels like that within any movement. I think within any movement, wherever you are, you look at the mountain of things that you have to achieve. But if you look throughout history in the feminist movement, the civil rights movement, within that movement, wherever they were, it feels like they still had so much to go. But standing in this moment now, looking back at history, we've accomplished so much. And so I think that we have victories, very small victories every single solitary day. There's more awareness, there's more access to the information. There's more kids coming onto this planet that have an organic sensitivity and empathy. There's more adults, whether it's them finding out information, whether it's them loving animals more, or whether it's them facing an illness. There are ways where people are awakening every single day. And I think that this is the most exciting time to be alive in history, because what I like to call this is the Great Awakening. We've gone through our physical evolution, right? We've gone from primates to standing upright, to being mankind, to living in big civilizations, to erecting government. We've gone through the Industrial Revolution and modernized our technology. So there's lots and lots and lots of progress that we've made. But it's all physical or technological. It's not spiritual or emotional. And I call this the time of the Great Awakening, where it's now in front of us to look at ourselves spiritually and emotionally and figure out who we are on this planet. Because where we've come so far is this idea that we are the supreme intelligence, that we are the highest on the food chain, that we can do whatever we want with this planet. We can chop down trees, we can pollute the ocean, we can own and enslave and eat and wear the animals, and that we are the dominant one on this planet. And it might have gotten us to survive and gotten us to where we are today. But in the process, we're destroying the planet. We're creating a lot of suffering. We're creating a lot of illness in our own bodies, and it's not sustainable in any way, shape, or form. And so now it is upon us to really look at who we are among the other animals and who we are as part of the ecosystem of this planet. We can't dominate it and own it anymore. We have to be part of it. We have to lift it up. We have to have reverence for Mother Earth and reverence for the other creatures and the animals. And in that process of love and generosity and kindness and reverence, we will find ourselves healthy and happy and thriving.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I teach compassionate communication as the foundation of my work. I run the Love Coach Academy, training relationship coaches. And one of the main things that we teach and believe is that we are going from surviving to thriving. And I often, and my viewers have probably heard the story before because I like to share it, but kind of along the lines of what you're saying, and in terms of tracking human consciousness, we look to people like the Dalai Lama or Albert Einstein or Ellie Lax. We look to the people that are ahead of the curve to see where we're going. And the Dalai Lama allowed brain researchers to hook up electrodes to his brain, and they ran tests on how his brain operates. And what they found that was extraordinary is that during all 90 minutes of the testing, his synapses were entirely firing in the frontal and temporal lobes, never in the reptile reaction brain, which is all about survival, but all in the frontal lobe, where the observer part of the brain and the empathy center of the brain is. Towards the end of the research, Elliot, they decided to really test him. And so they wanted to see if they could get his reptile brain to react. So they showed photographs of Chinese soldiers burning down a Tibetan temple. And he looked at the photographs and he wept. He didn't stuff his emotions, he wept. Synapses continued to fire in the frontal lobe. So the main researcher took one last shot at it and said, I want to know what you think when you think about Chinese soldiers raping Tibetan women, murdering your Tibetan people. How do you think, how do you feel? And he wept. He was silent for a very long time, but his synapses continued to fire up here. And finally he said, it reminds me that I must pray equally for the Chinese soldiers, as the Tibetan people. And I share that story because it's part of what I heard you saying. We're moving from surviving to thriving. And in that process, we move from reptile brain reactivity, where it's just about survival, part of being in survival is to be dominant, into thriving, which is having the bigger picture, seeing the big picture, the observer part of the brain, seeing, oh, it's not just Chinese bad, Tibetan good, it's a more complex, holistic picture than that. And with that then comes the empathy, right? And so I share that story with you because you're reminding me of your consciousness is ahead of the curve. Your ability to not just see animals as creatures that we're dominant over, but beings that we're here to nurture and to take care of. Now leading to my next question for you. You mentioned a couple times healing together, and I would love to hear how human beings, by working with you and at Gentle Barn, heal their own personal trauma or crises. Tell us about that.
I just think that animals have so much to offer us. I mean, they're obviously unconditionally loving and non-judgmental, but it's more than that. After having a pandemic for a year, we hear from people all the time, whether on our social media or in through email, saying, I just need to hug a cow. I just need to be at the Gentle Barn. I just need to feel that healing energy. I can't believe I haven't been able to be at the Gentle Barn for a year. I need it so bad. And so, sick of sitting on the sidelines, we really wanted to do something to help people. We have just launched what we call cow hug therapy, where we're bringing one person at a time. I mean, they can bring their spouse or their child, but it's really meant for like one person or one little couple at a time, to come into the cow pasture, be able to meditate with the cows, hug them, and feel their joy. And I've spent a lot of time watching people openly burst into tears when they meet this pasture and they hug the cows, and their eyes are closed and they're leaning against these cows and they're crying and they're just letting go of the last year, and they leave more hopeful and more inspired. And it's just absolutely beautiful. And I've spent a lot of time watching this and asking myself, why is it that cows are so healing? Like, I know that they're unconditionally loving and I know that they're not judgmental, but it's got to be something more than that. Like, what is it? And what I've come up with is, number one, cows especially, are very, very grounded. They live 100% in present time. They don't live in the past. They're not planning for the future. They are completely 100% in present time and grounded, and they know who they are. And it's very alluring and healing and inspiring to be inside that energy, because we, for the most part, live in the past or future. We're always worrying about something outside of ourselves, and we don't know who we are. We don't look at ourselves with kind eyes. We don't love and nurture and accept ourselves the way that we are, but animals do. And so being inside that energy is very inspiring. And then lastly, I think that animals are so healing because they give us an opportunity to be the best of who we are. I know that when I'm beside an animal, I am the best version of who I am. I am empathetic, I'm kind, I'm loving, my heart is open, I am giving to somebody else, I am in present time when I'm next to them, and I'm engaging in a beautiful, beautiful relationship that doesn't have words and doesn't have action. It's just simple, pure being. And so I am the best version of myself when I'm next to an animal, and partnering with the animals to give more people that opportunity to come into that energy and in that space and open their hearts and be in present time and find the best of themselves is very, very healing. And it's an honor to work alongside these animals. They have so much to give people. During this pandemic, as a matter of fact, there is a 17-year-old girl that's in foster care, and she's been in and out of homes her whole life. She's never had consistency. She's never had anyone that really sees her. She's an empath. She's an intuitive, and she's a beautiful, beautiful being. And she's been bullied and picked on her whole life. And she was very, very depressed, especially during the pandemic. And she was not responding to traditional therapy, wouldn't open up, wouldn't talk, and was really, really struggling. And so they called the Gentle Barn and asked if she could come. And this was several months ago when we were still closed. But I mean, I heard about her and I said, yes, absolutely, absolutely, she can come. And when I met her the first time, she wouldn't look at me. She wouldn't talk to me. She wouldn't interact with me. She wouldn't answer my questions. And so I said, well, that's okay. We don't have to talk. Let's go see the cows. And I brought her into the animals. And immediately the animals had her giggling and laughing. And then she started asking questions about them. And then I started answering her. And then she started looking me in the eye and we started interacting. And before I knew it, she was telling me about her life and her journey and her struggles. And now she comes regularly. And she's opened up to me completely because the animals allowed her to feel the best version of herself. So it rid her of the shame and it allowed her to open and be vulnerable to me. And then we got to share the animals together. And now we have something in common. And now she's trusting me more and more and more. And she's telling me about herself and her journey and her pain and her struggles. And I'm able to now be her witness alongside the animals. And the animals are breathing the life back into her. And it's beautiful.
Beautiful story. Where in the San Fernando Valley is where you have your original location?
Yeah. I opened originally in Tarzana.
Tarzana. I was born and raised in Granada Hills, so I know Tarzana well. You know, Catherine, we have several comments and a question coming from Catherine in a moment, but you've jogged my memory of a story in terms of talking about animals and healing. I don't think I've ever shared this story online before. I taught compassionate communication in the prison system. And I would go to this particular prison twice a week to teach. And it was only a select number of inmates, ones that were about to get out, that were in the class. And it was beautiful. It was an amazing experience. And as I would walk through, I had to walk through a particular dorm to get to where the class was every week. There's this one big, really scary looking black guy who would just sit in the corner and kind of give me the evil eye. And then he started getting more aggressive. And as I would walk by, I'd hear things like white boy thinks he's so special, you know, and the words were getting each time more and more aggressive. And I was getting more and more scared and more intimidated. And one day I had kind of an epiphany. I realized, well, I'm teaching compassionate communication and I teach when somebody confronts you or is being aggressive to get curious what's really going on with them.
Mm.
And it took me a couple of weeks to summon the courage to confront him. But finally, I realized, okay, today's the day. So I arranged to go early. And so, of course, as I'm walking by, he's throwing the comments at me. And I stopped and I pulled up a chair and I sat in front of him and I said, wow, what have I done to offend you? And of course, it's a total pattern disruption. Now he, has like deer in the headlights on his, face. But it started a dialogue. And in that dialogue, what came out was he resented that he hadn't been invited to the class.
Mm.
Need for inclusion hadn't been met. But what made me think of you in this story is, so I started, arriving earlier, staying late and working with him. I might cry as I tell this part. After a certain amount of time and trust had been built, he asked me if he could show me something. And I said, sure. He said, well, they're my drawings. And he pulls out this like little, best he could get at a prison notebook with blank pages, but the blank pages were filled with the most amazing drawings of puppies and kittens and small animals.
Mm.
Now you got to realize this guy, he must have been at least 250, 280 pounds. He was a big, tattoos all over the place, scary looking dude. And the sweetest pictures of puppies and kittens. And as I got to know him and the horrors of his life, he no longer trusted human beings, but he trusted animals.
Yeah.
He lived in his small animal fantasy world is and of course the innocence within him, and his name was Otis. I'm sure I remember him more than he remembers me. But Otis taught me that even within someone who's had a horrific life and a really hard life and has had to develop that mean MF kind of attitude, there was still an innocence that the puppies and the kitties represented for him. So anyway, thank you. God bless you wherever you might be today, Otis. And that talking to you has just brought back that memory of that experience for me.
Thank you for being his witness. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, he taught me, that's for sure. And it was beautiful to be the witness, and there it is. It's like if we can find that, like you said, when you're around the animals that bring out the best in you because they're present and they're in that purity. There was something I made a note of that I found curious, but I want to read Catherine's question for you. Catherine writes, I'm a distance healer and would be able to find some time to help heal Ellie's animals in need if she's used for it. It's worked on my dogs and other people's pets. Do you have a response for Catherine?
Yes, Catherine, thank you so much. I love energy healing. We use it with our animals all the time. And I actually have a list of the animals that are in most need of energy healing. And I would be so super thrilled to have you work on our animals. If you email me at info@gentlebarn.org and say that you were on this show and that I asked you to come do some distant healing, I can send you the pictures of the animals that are in most need. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Catherine says, yes, absolutely. And I just typed in info@gentlebarn.org. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And Jean writes, this is so beautiful. I'm Native, and unfortunately, we have lost the sense we once were a magnificent people who were caregivers of Mother Earth. There is yet a wonderful story to be told of our true nature. I'm so blown out by you, Ellie. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And a lot of people just, talking about shifting. Christine writes, I'm shifting from working too hard and learning to take care of myself more. This is, I guess, in response to the meditation where I asked people, what are we shifting from one season to the next? Mary writes, shifting from hunkering down to being outside most of the day. Yeah, more time in nature. That's something I'm wanting as well. And Christine says, I'm happy and I will be sending healing to the animals too. We'll email you. So
Thank you.
that's a lovely connection.
Thank you.
When you talk about cows in the pasture, you talked about joy. And I have to say that I've never imagined joy with cows. Like it's, tranquility, maybe serenity, presence I was able to understand, but I've never associated joy with a cow's being or experience of life, probably because the way they look from our human perspective. So just curious, tell me more about cows and joy.
Oh my God, cows are amazing. I have learned so many life lessons from cows. I mean, I can go on and on and on. Um, I love cows because they have so much to offer us. First of all, they face their challenges head on. They don't run from them. Their most important value in a cow society is family. They raise each other's babies. They discipline each other's teenagers. They fall in love, and they groom each other every single solitary day after breakfast. They meditate every single solitary day, kind of reminding us that it is in the stillness and the quiet that we center and connect with ourselves, which gives us later the ability to connect better with others. And they tread very, very gently and carefully on the planet. Their footsteps don't damage the grass. The way they eat the grass, they make sure not to pull it up by the roots. Everything about them is conscientious and giving and thoughtful to others. So I think they have so much to provide for us. But yes, there's a lot of joy. I have the profound pleasure of working with one of the greatest ambassadors I've ever had the pleasure to know. His name is John Lewis. We took him in at the beginning of the pandemic. He was actually born inside of a slaughterhouse. And we were able to save him, but not save his mom. And so we took him in at a week old when he was orphaned. Oh, Mary. Yeah. See, Mary loves John Lewis. So we took him in orphaned at a week old, and he was very, very, very sick with pneumonia. And it was 106 degrees. And even though we got commercial coolants for the barn, we couldn't cool down the temperature enough to save his life. And so ultimately, knowing that we were going to lose him, we ended up moving him into our house. Inside the air conditioning. And we set him up in the living room, and I moved downstairs to be his mom. And I was with him 24/7 all day and all night with John Lewis. And because of the oxygen tent my husband made and the air conditioning and the great vet care, we were able to save his life, and he got better and better and better. Once he was cleared to go out in the heat, the sunshine, and the dust, we were able to acclimate him to the other cows. And we were able to take him for walks every day. And he's 7 months old now. And he has so much joy. And he teaches people about joy every single day. He is full of life, and he literally jumps. Sometimes he comes out of his skin. He has so much joy, and he jumps and he kicks up his heels and he runs around and around and around. And he's best friends with my dog Sky, and the two of them play together every morning and every night. And he scampers around, and he's got these big curious eyes, and he's affectionate, and he shows his affection by licking like a dog would. So he comes bounding up to everybody, and he licks them, and he nibbles on their jackets, and he chews my hair, and he wants to eat everything that I'm eating. And he is so full of joy. It is astounding. And he's not the only one. I mean, throughout the 21-year history of the Gentle Barn, I've known so many cows that have had so much joy, and they jump up and down and they play and they make us laugh, and they have a sense of humor, and they keep everyone around them laughing, even when there are cows that have gone through really, really, really hard times and suffered tremendously. Within their suffering or hospitalization or surgeries, whatever they're going through, they have this innate ability to feel and express joy even through the things that they're going through. And so they're so inspirational to us, because they teach us that even though we're going through something, we can still feel joy. We can still come from gratitude with all of the myriad of things that we're grateful for. And we can still stay in that beautiful, sweet, happy place, no matter what's happening to us.
Wow. Well, I'm going to show, it turns out that since we're talking about cows, we're looking at the main page, the home page for gentlebarn.org. And there is that John Lewis by any chance, that particular?
No, that's Miles, and he's at our Nashville, Tennessee location.
Okay, beautiful. Wow. Looks like a beautiful location. So, while we're watching, please, everybody donate. Go to gentlebarn.org. And there's so many different buttons, a lot going on. But of course, if you click on the donate button, and please, everybody, let's donate. Look at all these incredible photos. Ellie and like, for example, this one, I don't know if I can blow it up. No, I can't. But where they've got the little wheels on a sheep that I guess lost its legs. There's so many amazing things. I'm so deeply touched by the work that you're doing. And I've invited Jan Kaplan to join us. Jan is who found you for Saturday Night Alive. So I'm going to go to gallery view, and Jan, go ahead and unmute. Welcome, and thank you, Jan, for bringing Ellie into the world of the Global Peace Tribe.
Well, her work is so important, and it's just so beautiful and so touching. And I think all of us, who've had pets, or, who have felt the comfort and the souls of animals, can really sort of align with what she's doing in such an amazing way, and bringing kids out, who need healing, and having them spend time with the animals. And so the animal stories are amazing. So thank you, Ellie, for being an amazing midwife or, sort of animal doula, for the world, and sharing all your stories of all your beautiful, beautiful animals there.
Thank you, Janice.
I've gone back to the homepage, and people can adopt an animal. And so we can all see, but look at all the different animals that you can actually adopt. And pigs, donkeys, sheep, birds, emus, goats, turkeys. Tell us, how does it work when somebody, so let's say I decide I want to adopt a goat. I'm a Capricorn, so I decide I want to adopt the goat. What happens next?
So you go to gentlebarn.org, you click on animals, and then you click on goats, and you can see all the goats that we have at the 3 locations at the Gentle Barn. And you see their names, their stories, and their beautiful faces. And you pick the one that calls to you, and you become a sponsor, which means that for a nominal donation each month, you're supporting the Gentle Barn. You're enabling us to care for our 200 rescued animals. You're enabling us to say yes to the next call that comes in for an animal that has nowhere else to go. And at the same time, we send you behind the scenes emailed updates about how they're doing, cute things that they do. If they have a vet visit, or if they have treatment, you get to know about what they're doing each month, with brand new pictures each month that you get to share with your friends and family. So you get to tell people that you have a goat of your own, and you're supporting the Gentle Barn at the same time.
So this is amazing. And I'm going to just read to people some of the first sentences. Merlin was taken in with, I love the names you guys come up with, by the way. Merlin was taken in when the lovely man who told us about Lolly and her mom, Minnie May, later told us he also knew who her dad was. There's Lolly, who was born on a freezing January day and lost both back feet and ends of her ears to frostbite. Oh my God. Bella, attacked by a dog, left for days with no medical attention, brought to the pound by her owner. The pound didn't have the resources, so Gentle Barn took over. All of these things. Baron von Goat. I think I'm gonna sponsor Baron von Goat. I'm feeling good on. Seriously. Baron
Talk
von
about
Goat.
joy. He's an amazing guy. He has a great sense of humor, and he's playing all day long.
Yeah, and which barn is he at?
He's in Missouri.
He's in Missouri. Chained to a post, Baron knew he had a greater purpose. Wow, this is incredible. And so I'm just going to click. So here you go. You can get the whole story. Oh, poor Baron von Goat looks like he's lost his ears.
He's actually a La Mancha goat, and they're born with little elf ears.
Oh, really? Okay. I love his face. My God, what a beautiful face. Um, Ellie, this is really remarkable. I've already cried twice today. I don't know if I have enough tears left for a third round. Tell us more about how, obviously, sponsoring animals, providing financial donations, but also for people that do live close to Southern California, Nashville, and St. Louis. Are there a lot of opportunities for people to come and volunteer? Is that something that's needed?
Yes, and the volunteers have a wonderful opportunity at the Gentle Barn because we have our staff that feed, clean, water, and groom the animals. But as far as the emotional support and the emotional love that the animals need, that's where the volunteers come in. And so when we get a new animal, the volunteers take shifts throughout the day and night, and they read out loud to them, they sing to them, they play instruments and music for them, they hold them and pet them, and they show them that people can be good. When we adopt orphaned animals, we never, ever let them be alone. And so our volunteers actually come and sleep with them at night with their sleeping bags, and they hold them in their arms, and they let these animals know that they're no longer alone, that there's someone who loves them, and they give them this loving energy in which to heal. And then we know when we have sick animals, the same thing. The volunteers come and they give these animals the emotional support. So they rub pig bellies, they interact with the baby pigs so they have things to do. They scratch the goats and sheep on the top of their heads. They hold the chickens. Sometimes we have elderly chickens that are prone to being cold more than usual because they're not walking around as much. Their circulation isn't as much as the younger ones. And sometimes the volunteers put them in their coats and they just hold them in the sunshine. And we have volunteers that come and groom the horses. We have volunteers that hug the cows. I keep saying that I want to retire and become one of our volunteers because they have the best job ever. I'll probably never retire, but
Yeah, you don't strike me as the retiring type, Ellie. Sorry about that,
no.
but I don't see retirement in your future.
No.
But that does bring up an interesting question. Obviously, as a charismatic voice for Gentle Barn, how is that for you? I mean, there's obviously you have a tremendous purpose. You were born with this purpose, age 6, finding your calling. How is the human experience going for you?
Wow, I love that question. It's going really, really good. I think that I have learned a lot and gone through a lot to get me to this place. I had some abuse and trauma going on in my childhood. And so I kind of learned I don't trust humans. Humans are not safe. There was some bullying in my school, which furthered that kind of belief and idea. And there were, of course, some challenges with humans at the Gentle Barn, like even on a volunteer level or, and kind of attracting the right staff. But I've really evolved to this place where I just love everyone. I love animals. I love people. I have so much compassion for whatever anyone is going through. And I love the quote from Jesus that you really don't understand anyone until you've walked a mile in their shoes. So someone that comes across angry, someone that works at a slaughterhouse, someone that abuses children or animals, none of us know what that's like until we've walked a mile in their shoes. And the worse the behavior, the worse the pain. And so when I see someone doing something that everyone else would like to judge as horrific, I see them as a cry for help. And I see someone that's truly and really suffering. And so I think that if we can learn to come from that place of compassion and understanding and finding common ground, then we can really give that person the witnessing that they need to open up and to change their behavior. And it reminds me of a rescue that we did in Tennessee with a cow named Dudley. For those people that have been following the Gentle Barn for a long time know Dudley. He was world famous and he made a huge impact in his 2 years with us. But we got Dudley from a 3rd-generation rancher. And this guy would go to the auction. He would get these young calves. He would feed them and fatten them up. And then he would send them to slaughter without batting an eyelash. And it's what he did. It's what his parents did. It's what his grandparents did. It's what he was groomed to be and to do. And when I heard of him and heard of Dudley and we went to rescue him on the plane, I remember thinking how is this going to go? This is someone that is so different than me. You know, here I am, I'm vegan, I rescue animals, and I'm about to meet a rancher that sends animals to their death. And I wondered to myself, like, how is this going to be to meet someone that is so different than myself? But the minute I walked into the pasture, looked him in the eyes, I realized he's just a person like me. He has childhood, he has challenges, he's overcome, he's got pain, he's suffered. And whatever he's doing right now is what he thinks is the best thing to do. It's what he feels like he was born to do. But I can still love him and I can still have compassion for him. And so we never, ever, ever came from a place of judging or criticizing him. We came from a place of compassion and love and understanding and curiosity that you said before, Scott, when talking about Otis. We were curious about him. We asked about his childhood and what was it like to grow up with all these animals and what it's like to be a rancher. And what was interesting is the minute we showed curiosity was the minute that he started sharing that his father was very tough on him and the animals. And he grew up with a lot of abuse. And when he got his beatings and his abuse from his father, he actually would crawl into the pens with the animals to find comfort. And so he actually saw himself very much similar to the animals. And he would hide in the barns and in the dog houses and in the stalls with the animals to get away from his tyrant father. And he would watch his father not only beat up on him and his siblings, but beat up on the animals. And he talked about how he was a very angry man when he reached 18, and he would take out his anger on the animals. And he was a very, very hard man, just like his father. And somewhere along the line, he started kind of getting an awakening where he kind of saw what he was doing, and he saw that he had become much like his father. And he had kind of like a moment where he said, this is not who I want to be. And he said, when he was talking to us, that he had a lot of apologizing to do. And he actually went out to his own barnyard and he apologized to his own horses and his own cows. And a little bit later, this cow came along with many others that he was bringing in to kind of raise and fatten up and send to slaughter. And this cow was missing a foot. And because he was hobbling around and he was in pain, this man identified with this cow's suffering. And even though he was sending the other cows to slaughter, he couldn't bring himself to send this cow to slaughter because he identified with the suffering of this cow. And so through some mutual people that we knew, he ended up reaching out and allowing us to save Dudley and bring him to the hospital. And it was amazing. It was very poignant at the time because this man put Dudley in his truck and trailer and drove him with us to the hospital that was 3 hours away. This trailer had brought hundreds, if not thousands of animals to their death. But on that day, he was bringing this cow to the hospital to save his life. And instead of judging him for what he had done in the past, we kept hugging him and thanking him and honoring him for allowing Dudley to live and for being a hero and saving Dudley and allowing us to have him. And we came with so much compassion and love for this man that, do you know that this man then turned vegetarian, stopped ranching, and is now a truck driver, and we're still in touch to this day.
Well, the third wave of tears came with that one. You know, what a beautiful, incredible story of transformation. And my tears came in the moment of the story where, instead of judging him for the hundreds of trips to the slaughterhouse, you were celebrating his trip to the hospital.
Yeah.
And there's a lesson for us all as we're listening, right? We can always find things to judge our husband, our wife, our kids, our parents for. But can we find instead the thing to celebrate them for? Because that's what we all need, and that's how we transform. That's how we support each other to become better human beings and to become who we truly are, instead of reinforcing the painful ideas and judgments and the bullshit of the past that we've taken on. This is how we can support each other to change that. So that's an amazing story. Well, God, unfortunately our hour is up. Jan, I do want to give Jan a chance to ask the last question, or so. Jan, you are muted, by the way.
Wow. I'm crying too. I can't imagine that anybody who heard that story isn't moved. And gosh, Ellie, how do you do it? How do you wake up? I mean, is it the love in your heart? What keeps you going day after day with such an amazing challenge, really, of taking care, being a mommy to all these amazing animals with such amazing stories? How do you do it?
Thank you. Thank you for that question. I really like that question. I remember wanting to start the Gentle Barn since I was 7. And in my mind, it was unicorns and confetti and rainbows and harps playing and violins. I mean, everything about it was happy, right? And I remember starting the Gentle Barn with that petting zoo and bringing in, the first 60 animals. And I remember expecting it to feel like rainbows and unicorns. And I remember in the first year, hearing one awful story after the other, after the other, after the other, and seeing the absolute worst of humanity. And I remember in that first year going, oh my God, I've made a mistake. I am not strong enough. I was wrong. I thought this was going to be amazing. It's not amazing. This is hard. I'm not strong enough. I can't do this. And I remember wanting to quit. And I kind of struggled with myself, with spirit, whatever, saying like, I quit. No, you don't. I'm not strong enough. Yes, you are. No, I was wrong about this. No, you're not. I can't do this. Yes, you can. Kind of that kind of thing. And then finally, after a month of really, really struggling, I realized, okay, yeah, you're right. This is why I was born. This is why I'm here. This is what I have to do. But how in the world am I going to survive this? Because this is really hard. And I remembered realizing that if we approach the world like it's evil, we're going to find a lot of evidence. But if we approach the world that it's beautiful and miraculous and good, then there's evidence for that too. So what I realized in that moment was it's all about where we put our focus. It really is. It's the thoughts that we have in our head. It's the conversations that we have with other people, and it's where we're putting our focus. If we put our focus on that everything's horrible, that everything's terrible, people are terrible, life is terrible, then those are the experiences that we're going to have. But if we put our focus on the beautiful people like yourselves that are doing wonderful work in the world, the people that have open hearts, the joy, the bliss, the miracles, the transformation, the connections, the beauty, if we put our focus on that, then we will see evidence of goodness everywhere we go and everywhere we look. And so I committed in that moment 21 years ago to keep my focus on the beauty and to not stray. And so I will not watch the news. I will not partake in negative conversations. I will not let my mind start rattling off negative thoughts. I stay in the gratitude. I stay in the positivity, and I engage on social media and in person with books, with TV shows, with movies. I engage with things that are going to uplift me and leave me hopeful. And that's where I get my strength to keep going.
Wow.
Wow. What an inspiration.
Doing this show for a year, and I want to say this is as inspirational and as powerful and as important a Sacred Sunday as I've ever done. And I've had some really amazing guests. Last week we had Andrew Harvey, I love. Ellie, you are such an inspiration, and what you're doing is so important. I'm gonna, one more time, just really encourage anybody watching, and I know that most people watch this show, watch the replay. I'm gonna really promote it and boost it. Please go to gentlebarn.org and then go to donate. And then there's other ways to donate. So go to /donate-other. Look at all these different ways you can donate. You can donate hay. You can sponsor an animal. That's what I'm going to do today. You can go to the emergency fund, kids group donation, postcard gift condolence, Amazon Smile, or even donating a vehicle. Ellie, explain to us, what is the kids group donation? What's that all about?
Yeah, so I mean, we rescue animals that have nowhere else to go, and then we work with the animals to host groups of kids from foster care agencies, probations, inner city schools, drug and alcohol rehab centers, burn centers, children's hospitals, domestic violence shelters, homeless shelters, war veteran centers, senior centers. Really anyone out there that's suffering, they can come to the Gentle Barn, and through the interaction and the stories of the animals, they can find compassion, kindness, confidence, and find themselves in the barnyard. And so most of the agencies that we work with cannot afford to come. And so we ask people to sponsor groups to come to the Gentle Barn, whether it's one person, whether it's a classroom full of kids, whether it's a group of foster children. You can donate to the Gentle Barn and enable us to invite people that need healing to come to the Gentle Barn and find it. And I just want to throw out there that I've written a book called My Gentle Barn, Creating a Sanctuary Where Animals Heal and Children Learn to Hope. And it's all about my childhood and how animals saved me. It's about my journey to start the Gentle Barn and the challenges and obstacles that we overcame. It's my love story with my partner, Jay, and how we found each other and now work together to save animals and heal children. And it's about all the founding animals that taught us everything that we now know today. And it's about those original groups of children that came out to heal and find themselves in the barnyard. And so if you guys want to hear more amazing stories, you can check that out. It's sold on Amazon or wherever books are sold.
Wow, I actually just found it online, so I'm going to go there for a minute. Here it is. My Gentle Barn, Creating a Sanctuary Where Animals Heal and Children Learn to Hope. And you can find that by going to Ellie's website. Her name, it's her name.com. Ellie, ELLIE, Lax, LAKS.com, EllieLax.com. And then it's easy, you can just click and you'll find where Ellie's book. And look at all those people that work with her, and look at you reading with, which cow is that watching you read?
Her name is Buttercup.
But oh, of course, well, of course her name is Buttercup. I should have intuited that. That's a great photo, I love it. Oh God. Oh, Ellie, thank you so much. Everybody, before you hang up, before you go to the next thing, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go figure out which animal. I want to adopt an animal that's in the valley because I was born and raised in the valley, and I sometimes live in the valley. So I'll find one. What goat would you recommend that is in the valley, Ellie?
Let's see, what
You have a
goat
goat
do we
in the
have
valley?
in Los Angeles? Well, Bella lives in Los Angeles. She's amazing. She's the one that you clicked on that was attacked by a dog, and
Okay.
she's so lovely. We have a goat named Gus. We have a sheep named Stanley. If you go to gentlebarn.org and click on animals and then click on location, you can click California, which is Los Angeles.
Right.
And then you can click on goat and you can see all the goats that live in Los Angeles, and you can pick one, but they're all amazing.
Yeah, I'll do it that way. Only because it would be fun to actually go see, whichever. I think maybe Gus, maybe in honor of my uncle Gus.
Gus is a nice guy too.
Yeah. I had an uncle Gus who had a rough life, very rough life. So maybe in honor of my uncle Gus. Ellie, you are just such a gem, and thank you so much for taking time to be on our show. Please, everybody, let's go to gentlebarn.org and donate in whatever ways. Look at all the amazing ways she set up for us. Jan, thank you for doing your magic of finding Ellie and bringing her into our world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Janice. Thank you so much, Scott, for having me and for all the beauty that you put into this world.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And remember, we can make any day sacred just by seeing the divinity in all. Look at what Ellie is teaching us, what the animals are teaching us, seeing, being fully present, and seeing the divinity. Not this guy has slaughtered thousands of animals, he's saving an animal. So let's all practice that story of seeing the divine in all. And that's what makes every day sacred. God bless you both. Thank you so much. Goodbye, everybody. Hope to see you again soon.
Bye.
And share this video, post it on your walls, share it on your group. If ever there was a video of one of my shows to do, this is the one to share. So please, let's spread the word out to our friends, all right?